put into daycare. So his child support went up from $340 to $960. He can either choose to pay the mother daycare outside of the child support worksheet, or it can be included. What he said was, I'll pay it inside the worksheet because I don't have any dealings with her. I'll give her $960 until my child starts pre-K. So keep that in mind. If that child is in daycare and you are not the primary custodial parent, in order for that mother to work, that child to be put in daycare, you're going to pay the majority of the daycare costs. If you have a spouse, Mary didn't want me to bring this up, sometimes mothers will try this, oh, you're dating a lawyer, there's more money, I'm going to take you back to court for more money. Typically, a judge does not use the other spouse's income.
It's not typical, they don't.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't.
As far as the child support worksheet that I had told you about, if you have a child that is about to graduate from high school, and then you have two other kids that may have 2 or 3 years before they graduate from high school, make sure, again, somewhere in that judge's order, they say, this is how much you're paying for 3 kids. Once your child graduates from high school, this is how much you'll be paying for 2 years. Because if not, you're going to pay Miriam, myself, Attorney Abernathy, or Attorney Aaron to go back into a modification. So make sure it's somewhere stated, if you know that child is about to stop daycare, or that child is about to stop, or about to graduate from high school, make sure there's somewhere in there, this is going to be your new child support amount. Your child support should go down. All right?
And I'm going to stop us because we got 2 questions, one here in the room and one on Facebook Live. So I want to make sure we get to them.
Okay.
First question from the audience is, we have a dad who has a 9-year-old daughter, Chicago, Illinois. Mom has had custody for some time. He does pay child support. Does child support give you, this is my word, not his word, extra rights? Or how would that dad go about seeking full custody for that child that's in Chicago? What would be the first steps? And I'm giving you just high level, I'm sure you have other questions. But when you pay your child support, you've not been allowed to see your child as often as you'd like, maybe even what the decree says, but mom is determining when you see the child. What steps does that dad take to get to his 9-year-old baby?
So child support is not a precondition of having custody or visitation rights of the child. They are 2 totally separate pieces of the law. And so the biggest thing that I hear is that the child was in Chicago. And so I am only licensed to practice here in the state of Georgia, but one thing I do know is that we wouldn't be able to file the action here in Georgia. He would have to file that action in Illinois, and in whatever county it is that the mother of the child resides. And I'm telling you that based on what I know of Georgia's law, because we have some states that will say that they don't do that. It can be wherever, particularly Alabama. But so, as far as we're speaking here today, Georgia would not be able to handle the case. And he would have to go and file in the state in which the child resides, or the mother resides. And just to further reiterate, just because you're paying child support, and just because you're paying it on time, and you are providing for the support, providing for the support of the child based on the order of the court, that does not entitle you to custody of the child. You have to show that this child's best interest will be served if the child was residing with you as opposed to mother. And we're not talking about, oh, because I live in a penthouse and she lives in an apartment. The parties' financial circumstances or socioeconomic circumstances is not an indication that one child or a child can be raised or will be better off if they are living in the projects versus, Alpharetta. So there are certain factors that have to be met, at least in the state of Georgia, that the court will look at to determine whether or not the child's best interest will be served with one parent versus the other.
In that question, I guess I was a little bit unclear in whether or not the dad actually has an existing court order for parenting time, or if he was trying to establish custody of parenting time. Because if he already has an order for parenting time, there's an order that says I'm supposed to get my baby every other weekend from Friday pick up from school to Monday drop off at school. There is another option. He could file a motion for consent if it's a Georgia order. So if it's a Georgia order and it says I'm supposed to get my baby every other weekend, he could file a petition for contempt if she's not allowing him to get the child in accordance with an existing court order. If he doesn't have one, then counsel is 100% right, it would have to be filed in Chicago. But I just wasn't clear from the question whether or not he had a court.
Oh, okay, we have a question from Facebook Live where you were talking about the judges and their preferences and what makes them tick. They want to know, well, how do you find out about those particular judges? And if you do get a judge you don't like, do you have to take that judge or can you ask for another judge?
So are they I imagine that they're asking how would they know or how would, so when I'm asking, you need to know the judge and their preferences. Typically that's something that the attorney would know. That's because we practice alongside or in front of these judges. And so we've had several different cases where we know, okay, this judge is more inclined to award joint physical custody. I know that there's a judge, in further south, where I practice who will always award joint physical custody. Primarily, no matter what the situation is. And that's how he is, that's what he will do. Obviously, it's not consistent with the law, but I do think that each judge has their own preference, and they can justify it based on whatever the facts are of the case, and they can make the facts fit. And so, typically, that is something that the attorney would know, is what type of judge would like this, or what judges do this, or what judges do that. But no, once we file the action and they assign us the judge, because it's rotated, if we don't know who the judge is going to be picked. But once they rotate the judge and assign us an actual judge, we can't change the judge solely on the basis of, oh, well, I know this judge is heavily women or pro-father. There would have to be some grounds for refusal.
And then the other question is from a gentleman who says, where's the name of the time? Has everything in writing, but you still haven't seen the kid in 2 years, they won't let you see it in 2 years. That's all it has. I'm not sure what, I know it's very vague, but I'm going from the standpoint that he has everything that we've been saying locked down in line. But I guess the mother's still not letting see, but he's still paying child support, he has a record of that.
Child support and parenting time do not go together. Because the mother doesn't allow the father to see the child, does not mean the child stops paying child support, and vice versa. It does not go together. He needs to continue paying child support, kind of like what Attorney Arnold Johnson has stated. If he has a court order for parenting time and the mother is refusing to follow that court order, he should file a motion for contempt, hire counsel, and request reimbursement of attorney fees. If she continues not to allow him to see his child and there is an order, most of the time I ask for incarceration. And a lot of times the judge will threaten, if I see this case again and the mother is not following my order, the judges take their orders very seriously. And if you don't follow their orders, almost as though you're spitting in their face, they will say, I will consider changing custody. So to answer that gentleman's question, he has to have an order. He does not have an order, and this is a child that he was not married to his mother. He needs to file a petition for legitimation so he can go ahead and establish some parenting time. I don't like saying the key term visitation. You visit with your grandparents. You don't visit with your children. You parent your children. So my motto is parenting time. So you won't really hear me ever say visitation. I just don't like that term. Unless I'm visiting my grandmother, she's deceased.
Now, are there any other questions?
Contempt and the visitation. Out of order. She has applied the contempt, but then it's dealing with UCC, JA. So how
And since the order, that was issued in Georgia, you all haven't had any cases in California yet, correct?
I got it.
It was a contempt act that you filed in California?
No,
But what I'm saying is, there's never been any other court that has had an case or has issued an order, between you two. Okay, so UCCJEA would then say, that original jurisdiction is still here in the state of Georgia. And so just because she's living in California, you can still file a contempt here, right?
I've been here with the first original, about everyone, that's it.
She was filing or you were filing?
I filed. I did with West Juvenile.
Where's your child?
A lot of stuff.